Hello and welcome to another video on my channel. I'm Rohit, you know me here as Toll-Free Traveler, and today we're talking three basic principles that I use whenever I'm trying to pack for a motorcycle ride. Now, to try to keep this somewhat systematic, given that it's an expansive subject and I think everybody has their own method to the madness, I approach this by using a system that I refer to as the three S's: shrink, segregate, and split. The terms are pretty self-explanatory, but we're just going to break it down a little bit so that I can explain to you better how they apply to my packing system. Let's start off with the first one: shrink. Shrink obviously is to make things smaller. Now, shrinking itself I think has two aspects. One is to shrink the number of things that you carry, and two is shrink the way in which you carry what you are going to carry. Does that make sense? But basically what I'm saying is that depending on the kind of trip that you're doing, what you need to carry will be hugely different. When I was riding to Nepal for several months and I thought I would be camping quite often and I was trying to create content, my motorcycle looked something like this. As opposed to when I was traveling to Kotagiri on the Dominar for just a few days and I knew I was not going to camp and I knew that I only needed a few basic things, my luggage looked like this. So effectively, depending on the trip that you're going, why you're going, what you intend to do, how long you're going for, where you're going, what you need to carry will differ. And one of the things that I like to do is to create a checklist a few days before any trip, and eventually I take a few hours off and then I go back to that checklist, look at it again and see what I've put on there that is absolutely essential, what is a good to have, and what is a luxury. And usually you will find that you can trim a few things off that checklist. There will also be things that you sort of develop based on experience, some things that you carried on a previous ride which was a backup to a backup to a backup that you realize you never ended up actually using and you could well do without, or it's something that's easy to find in case you need it on the road, buy it at a shop. So ditch a few of those things and basically shrink the number of things on your checklist that will go into your bag. And the second aspect to it is to shrink the way in which you carry the things that you carry. Key amongst which is probably clothes. I used to carry them folded the way I would in a cupboard, but I eventually found that that system does end up taking up a lot more space, and more importantly, things just tend to sort of fall apart when you're trying to rummage around your bag looking for something. So I moved to using a popular method known as the army roll, which is a much better way I found to carry at least t-shirts and clothes that have some amount of elasticity to them. The other thing that's been really useful is to use compression bags. Compression bags are basically bags that help you shrink things that could otherwise be quite voluminous, like puffy jackets, sleeping bags. I carry a backpack on most of my trips so that I have a day bag wherever I go, and I use this compression bag from Viaterra to carry that backpack, because on its own that backpack would take up a lot of space in my bag, as opposed to when I put it into a compression bag and sort of tighten the straps, after which that entire package takes up a lot less space in my primary luggage. There are other ways of doing this as well, but overall the intention is to shrink things to make them take up as little space so that you can fit as much as you can into as small a bag as possible, and overall just carry smaller luggage on your bike. The benefits of that are obvious, so I don't need to explain that. That's the shrinking bit. The second bit is to segregate. Now, segregating some might think is not crucial, but over a period of time I've come to realize that this is quite important. Initially I used to just dump everything that I was going to carry into my bag straight up, because I figured that anyway I'm carrying just a small bag, how hard is it to find things within it? I don't really need to divide this any further. But over a period of time I started realizing that one, it was a very messy way to carry things, because when I was looking for one thing I would end up messing everything else up. And two is sometimes you're looking for something small like a cable or an adapter or something like that, and if you've not segregated previously, then you end up needing to pull apart your whole bag to just find that one thing, which can be a time consuming and messy process. So eventually I've moved to using things like packing cubes or roll top bags or purpose built sort of storage cases for some of the things that I carry. These things are usually not very voluminous, they're made out of a thin fabric, they don't have much weight to them, so they don't add much overall to your luggage, but they make it a lot more organized. This way, when I get to a destination, I can just pull out the few things that I particularly need. Maybe on a day I just need my clothes and my toiletries, very easy to access, pull them out, I don't mess up anything else. My basic cables are easy to access. I know where to find what I'm looking for. So segregation goes a long way in making you more systematic, making things easy to find, and just giving you a sense of sanity with the luggage that you're carrying on a motorcycle. The third principle is to split. Now, to some people, split might seem the same as segregate, but for me, it's hugely different because I learned this lesson the hard way. In 2016, when I was riding back from Delhi to Chennai alone, I landed up in Jodhpur and the bike was giving me some trouble and I urgently needed to disconnect the battery. But I realized that even my simple screwdriver was in my main toolkit, which was buried deep within my tail bag, which was under a tarpaulin, which was bungeed down, basically very difficult to access. But I had no choice, so in the middle of a busy market in Jodhpur, I had to unpack my entire motorcycle and pull out everything and find my toolkit and eventually grab the screwdriver and immediately go to disconnect my battery while leaving everything sort of lying around my bike. And it was a very stressful experience, one because it took me so much time to address the issue that I had, and two because I had so many things lying around and I was constantly worried about whether someone might steal something. And that's when I learned this important lesson to split the luggage that I carry, which is basically to say that the things that you're carrying, some of it might be stuff that you need only at a destination or that you're unlikely to need during the course of a ride, and other things are stuff that you know that you're likely to use during your ride. It might be something as simple as sunglasses or a face towel or hand sanitizer or even an emergency light or things more important like tools. So now what I do is I split my tools, and the heavy duty tools, like the tools I would need to repair a puncture, would go into my tail bag or my saddle bag, because if I'm in that kind of situation, then I have enough time on my hands to open everything up and find what I need. But I keep my smaller tools, whether they're multi-tools or just a simple screwdriver, and smaller, lighter tools in my tank bag or my backpack, which is my easy access bag, because those things I know when I need them, I want to be able to access them easily, and they will help me solve smaller issues in a much faster and much more efficient manner. The same applies to food, for example. If you're carrying a whole bunch of granola bars on a long ride, you can keep the big box in your primary bag and just keep a few bars in your tank bag. That same logic sort of extends to your papers for your motorcycle, maybe some amount of the money you're carrying, like I was saying, a face towel, hand sanitizer, a small tube of face wash, or whatever it is that you think you might need during the course of a ride. You keep those in the easy access bag, which is your tank bag or your backpack, and the other stuff goes into your tail bag. So basically you're splitting your luggage, and this whole split will vary depending on where you're riding, why you're riding, and how you're riding, of course. For example, if I'm riding in a place where it's likely to rain often, I would put my rain gear into my easy access bag so that I can get in and out of it much faster. Whereas if I was riding in Rajasthan where it's unlikely to rain, I would put my rain gear into my primary luggage so that it doesn't take up space in this bag. It might vary from day to day. When you're riding in the mountains, you might want to keep your warm gloves easy to access in your tank bag so that you can switch between gloves if you have two pairs of gloves. So basically this whole thing depends on personal preference and location and weather and many other factors. But there are also a few fundamentals that would sort of remain split irrespective of where you're riding. And that's about it. Those are my three basic principles, the three things that are at the top of my mind when I'm trying to pack my luggage for a motorcycle trip. There are other factors that come into effect when it's time to get this onto the bike, like weight distribution, where you're putting things, safety of particular pieces of gear that you're carrying. But maybe all of that is stuff we can talk about in a separate video. Let me know whether that would be something that you're interested in. Leave a comment below. Just in case I haven't said this before, I believe that packing is something that's very, very personalized. So the idea was to just give you the principles that I've developed over the course of my travels by doing things that I've learned, and hopefully this will enable you to then go out and figure out your method that really works for your kind of travel. It will require trial and error because that's the only way I think you truly learn, because again, each person, your needs, your wants and your methods are very specific. The idea was to just give you what I've learned so far, and hopefully it will help you get to something way better much sooner and simplify that process. Thank you for watching this video. I will catch you guys in the next one. Hello and welcome to another channel. Hello and welcome to another. Why am I smiling?